know what the #1 job of somebody that sold their soul in Hollywood is?
What?
Is to act like it didn't happen.
I said, who is that guy? So he called casting and he said, well, they kind of like lovers. I'm like, that's not gonna work out. I'm not homophobic, but I have boundaries for me as a person.
And I see that they put every black man in the movies in a dress at some point in their career. I'll be connecting them down like, wow, these brothers gotta wear a dress. That's happened to me.
Is that something that, you wouldn't do, for?
I definitely haven't ran into to put on the dress. I mean, you have to have boundaries.
And from the looks of it, the new pope is not Turkson. The new pope is 9-year-old Oscar nominee, Quvenzhané Wallis.
Wow. You've heard the whispers, the rumors that creep through Hollywood like shadows after midnight. Stories of fame built on something far darker than talent, of success that comes chained to invisible deals, of rituals that strip away everything you thought you knew about the stars you admire. Tonight, we pull back the curtain and connect the dots most people are too afraid to say out loud. Because there's something off about Hollywood's overnight success stories. Careers that rise too fast, too clean, almost like they've been engineered. What if I told you that behind many of these meteoric climbs lies a pattern? A price paid that has nothing to do with skill and everything to do with surrender. And right in the middle of it all stands Clifton Powell, an actor who didn't just talk about boundaries, he lived them. While others whispered about the cost of playing the game, Powell showed what happens when you refuse to pay it.
Refusing to pay it.
Judging from my resume, I haven't turned down much. The thing that I want people to understand is a lot of the smaller movies that you see me in probably was a friend of mine or a producer who hired me when I had no money, or they come highly recommended. I've been offered some different types of roles that I didn't take. I did a TV series where they wanted me to play the neighborhood coon, and I walked off of that. But most of the time when I read a script, if I like it, I do it, I don't let when you get to a certain level, when you get to my level and above, your agents kind of tell you what to do. And I don't let anybody tell me what to do. I've worked my ass off and I do what I want to do. Sometimes, like say for instance, I'm gonna speak on this movie because I caught a lot of flack for doing this movie, Women That Aren't Loose. Now, how I got that role, and please, everybody that's listening, understand, I never read that script. Reuben Cannon, who put me in Selma, Lord Selma, he put me in Buffalo Soldiers, and he put me in Why Do Fools Fall in Love. He called me on a Thursday and said, hey Cliff, I need you tomorrow for this role. My main actor dropped out, I need you. And I came in because that's one of my partners. And he hired me when I had nothing. He saw the talent. And so when I read the script, when I got to the set, and when I read the part about the little girl, I made them restructure that. I said, I don't think it's necessary for me to have to touch that little girl. Let's just close the door and we hear, maybe hear a scream or something. I'm not doing that. Now, on the flip side, I wouldn't have taken that role if I read the script because I have a daughter and I know how that is perceived. But after we did the movie, we went around to a lot of places and had panel discussions to help women who have been physically, mentally, and spiritually. So something good came out of that, but that's not a role I would pick for myself. It was a TV series. It's a TV series called Simon on the WB. I think it was the WB network. I can't remember. But the week before the show came out, they was scanning all the new shows. In the Ebony Junior magazine, they said Clifton Powell starring as the neighborhood coon in a new TV show called Simon. And so when I got there and they wanted me to do some coonish type things, I said I wasn't going to do it. So I met with the big white guy who ran the show and had about 7 shows on. And he basically said, I bet you will do this. He said, I bet you would do this movie if it was a William Friedkin film. Now, if anybody want to know who William Friedkin is, he directed The Exorcist. So basically he said, I bet you would do this role if it was a William Friedkin movie. I said, I bet you.
Powell's story hits harder once you realize the pressure he was facing. Imagine this, he gets tossed into a role last minute after the original actor walks out. No time to study the script. Then, as he flips through the pages, he finds scenes meant to break him down and lock his image into something he could never shake. Most actors would have swallowed it. Powell didn't. His reaction wasn't polite. It was instant pushback. He demanded changes on the spot rather than let Hollywood script his identity for him. But that was only the warm-up. The real test came when the stakes climbed even higher.
I got a audition maybe a year ago for Mr. Black. I don't think he read the script. So I read the script and I called him. I said, this guy, this gangster, he has this guy named Raphael or somebody hanging around the bar all the time. I said, who is that guy? So he called Cassidy and he said, well, they kind of like lovers. I'm like, that's not gonna work out. I'm not homophobic. I've gotten a lot of flack for saying something in the heat of the moment. I'm not homophobic. But I have no problems with transgender people or gay people. I don't care what color they are. I have no problems with, I'm not racist or any of that. But I have boundaries for me as a person, which makes me uncomfortable or comfortable that I just don't cross. And it's not militant. It's just that certain things I'm just not comfortable with. I'm a man. I'm not comfortable kissing a man whether I got to do it for a role. I commend actors who can handle that inside of their psyche. I'm not wired that way. I've never seen a gay gangster, but I'm sure they have been. There was a guy out of DC named Wayne Perry who was a gangster, the biggest killer in DC. I just read about him. I wouldn't play him because there's a scene where one guy walks in and sees me having with a man, and I'm not doing it. But they make comments and man, but we needed a guy that's rough and tough and can play those rough and tough roles. I'm like, I'm not doing it. That's just me, So I don't necessarily, when I read something I don't like it, I don't give it a second thought.
It wasn't just any role. It was a major film gig with a massive paycheck attached. We're talking millions, the kind of money that could change everything and set up your future for life. But Powell turned it down. Why? Because the role demanded he cross boundaries he swore he'd never cross. While other actors bent those rules and skyrocketed into superstardom, Powell chose a different path. He stayed true to himself, even if it meant living what he calls hand to mouth.
I never came to Hollywood to be a star. I didn't have any plans to be in Hollywood. So nobody's gonna force me to do anything. Nobody's gonna dangle money in front of me to make me do anything. I'm my own person because it wasn't my passion. But also the way I was raised. I grew up in the 60s in the middle of, the civil rights movement and with, teachers who were black militants and who were revolutionaries, and they instilled in me a certain level of pride. And, and that doesn't deter me. That doesn't make me better than anyone else. It's just that I have a standard for myself that you can't force me to do anything, whether it's, paying me $50 billion a day. It's just not gonna work.
Powell's stance says it all. He never came to Hollywood chasing stardom. He came with his pride and principles intact. And no amount of money, not even an impossible $50 billion a day, could tempt him to betray those values. His career setbacks weren't about talent. They were the price of refusing to play by Hollywood's twisted rules. What makes his resistance even more powerful is the system he was up against, a machine built to wear actors down and force compliance. The so-called casting couch was never just about sex. It was about control, psychological warfare, finding weak spots, pressing until the resistance snapped, and ensuring that silence became the only option.
I used to work at the swap meet. I used to work at Covenant House. I used to do clerical work. I used to do phone sales. I just never quit. Okay? So when we talk about adversity, if this is your passion,
After the top is all right. Let me get to that.
No, but I'm making this because I want to clean that adversity because it's very important about what choices people make to think they're going to make it. Which rolls into your way to the top. It's no such thing as
Really?
if you don't
Madonna.
If you don't have any talent, at some point you're going to hit a wall. There's an article that I can't think of the white girl's name, but she slept with all the heads, a couple of heads. No, not Marilyn Monroe. But, no. This is a true story. And she was dealing with some of the big executives. And what happened was, they promised her all this, but because of the chain of command, they couldn't just come in and say, I know this Pierre's show, but yo, she better be a star. They were like, hold on, man, wait a minute. You can't just do that as an exec and call the network and say, yo, old girl about to be a star. So she's suing all ahead of those guys because she thought she could make her way to the top.
But some people have to way to the top. Come on, Clifton, we family here, bro.
I'm just being real with you.
I am too.
I believe that there's no such thing as making her way to the top. Now, can you position yourself to move in a different way? No, I think, no, listen, because this is what I teach. When I get female students who, like my girls' voice, you're gonna hit a wall where you're gonna get challenged.
Powell pulls back the curtain on Hollywood's dirtiest shortcut. Trading intimacy for opportunity doesn't just cost you your dignity. It hands the industry a weapon it will use forever. Those favors might open doors, but they also lock you in chains of scandal
when you're struggling, and then
Once
you
you
finally
give in,
make it, and some of
you're
your
no
people
longer
that
seen as a
got their people,
Your property.
you gotta go in, man. And go in and get 10,000 for 2 days. I get 10,000 a day. That's good money. And I'm not Denzel Washington. I still make a lot of money, but I'm not Denzel Washington. I made it to the middle. The middle is a great place to be, but to make it to the top, there's a whole lot of other stuff that I'm not going to discuss on here that comes with that I'm not willing to do. So I'm healthy, happy and healthy in the middle. If I don't leave my house, I'll make $150,000 from my pension, my wealth, my residuals, and my Social Security. So I'm good. I made it. I'm not bragging. I'm blessed. But I have a guy named Keith Neal that's in the middle, and he handles all the independent stuff. I never want to get to a place where my people can't reach me. So I keep him in the middle. And then some stuff my agent brings, sometimes stuff my manager brings. I pay sometimes out 30%. My manager gets something, Keith will get something, or my agent will get something. I move, and I have so many relationships. I made it to the middle. The top is another whole set of stuff that you got to deal with on every level that I'm not willing to do. So, and they don't let strong Kunta Kinte like me get to the top. It just doesn't happen without some compromise, and I'm not willing to do that.
Here's how the system locks struggling actors in its grip. Desperation becomes the bait. They dangle money, then push you toward roles designed to compromise you. But Powell carved his own way out. Instead of relying on agents who play double games and funnel actors into brand-destroying situations, he built
whatever your preference is, I don't really care. But I don't think you can block people. I think the problem with the casting couch is that if you don't do it, you ain't gonna do growth. I think that's really horrible to put on something. Like, come in my office and have with me, and then I'll give you the role. If you come in casting and you get the role on your own merit, and you run into me at a restaurant and you want to go out, if I am not married or I'm whatever, and I'm available, I think that can work. That works all the time in this business. But for me to say to you, as a beautiful female, if you don't have to me on this couch right here, you ain't getting the role. And I think that's wrong. And I'm gonna always say it. I know I'm gonna get a lot of feedback out there, but I'm just telling you the truth. Anybody that blocks you from something, try to force you into making a decision because you need money or you want to be famous, I just think that's wrong.
Powell's moral clarity slices straight through Hollywood's twisted excuses. Forcing someone into intimate acts by preying on their vulnerabilities isn't business, it's exploitation. No industry traditions. No rationalizations. No, that's just how it works. Wrong is wrong. Period.
I just got my first residual check, was more than $25,000. So Will Packer put me in that movie. Will Packer called me again. I'm going to work with Will Packer. If my agents don't like it, I'm still going to do it. So people don't understand the inner workings of this business. When you with APA and above, they're ready for you to cross over. That's why Motown crossed Diana Hall and all of them. First they was at the Apollo, then he got them at the big white clubs because they try to cross you over.
Powell's philosophy is unshakable. He stands on truth no matter the fallout. When traps were laid for him, he saw through them and refused to play along. In Hollywood, the biggest stars are often the ones who traded away their boundaries. Powell's career proves that integrity has a financial cost, but selling your soul carries a debt no amount of money can ever erase. And this brings us to Hollywood's darkest ritual. What looks like harmless comedy on the surface reveals itself upon closer inspection, as psychological warfare masked as art. Dave Chappelle didn't just notice the pattern, he exposed it and refused to bend. His warning lingers like an echo. When every black man in Hollywood eventually ends up in a dress, it's not about creativity, it's about control.
I mean, I'm a conspiracy theorist to a degree. Like when I connect dots that maybe shouldn't be connected, I don't know. There's certain dots, like when I see that they put every black man in the movies in a dress at some point in their career, I'll be connecting them down like, wow, all these brothers gotta wear a dress. This happened to me. I'm doing a movie with Martin. The movie's going good. So I walk in a trailer, I'm like, this must be the wrong trailer because there's a dress in it. They come in, the writer comes in, I think he's the writer, he's like, Dave, listen, you got this hilarious scene where Martin's sneaking out of jail. So he disguises you as a prostitute. And he put this dress on, and it's, what? The prostitute? Nah, I'm not doing it. I don't feel comfortable with it. That should have been in the discussion. What? You don't feel comfortable? I mean, it's a hilarious bit. All the greats have done it. So, well, if all the greats have done it, it's kind of hacky right here, right? So why don't we just not do it? I don't feel comfortable in a dress. Oh, come on, Dave, listen, you got it all set up. You're supposed to shoot. Every minute you waste costs this much money. No, the pressure comes in. Nah, I'm not wearing no dress, man. I'm funnier than the dress. Just give me something funny to say. I don't even wear no dress to be funny. What am I, Milton Berle? You know, we're going like this. And then finally it's like, you leave. And then like the director comes, Dave, it really would be great if you wear the dress. What is wrong? What is this, Brokeback Mountain in here? So then, wear the dress. I don't want to wear the dress. I want to wear this dress. You know what I mean? Oh gosh, it's so difficult. They leave. Now the producers comes, come on, David, would be so great. I mean, and then I started thinking about it. All the comics that I've seen, man, real strong brothers. Why they put us in these dresses? But the minute it was clear, I was adamant. I'm not wearing the dress. I'm not wearing the dress. All right, fine. Make something else. That goes back 10 minutes later. The whole new scene. Damn, how did you write the scene so fast? You know, it's like, so you gotta take this.
Chappelle pulls the curtain back, exposing dress wearing not as random comedy, but as Hollywood's calculated tactic, a ritual designed to corner and break down resistance. And the moment he spoke on it, the system moved in. They slapped him with the conspiracy theorist label, a classic defense mechanism to protect the ritual from public scrutiny. But the real question is this: what happens when you reject the ceremony? What's the price of refusing?
Disappeared for a while. People were saying, "Where's Dave? Where's Dave Chappelle? Where's he going?" And then it turns out you took a trip to Africa. Is that true?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like they said.
Right.
It was
because
like,
the stories, as you know, you're hearing all kinds of stuff on the news.
It was crazy, man. I mean, first I went to Africa to chill, and I tell you, you hear a lot of black people say this, like when you go to Africa, especially the first time, you have this overwhelming feeling like you're home, which is true. I had that feeling, man, this feels like home. I think I felt that way because there's a McDonald's in the airport. So I got my Big Mac. But then it was like, it just got out of control. Like I was in Africa, and next thing I started hearing all the stories like me and Dave Chappelle's mental institution in South Africa. And I was like, man, I must be losing my mind. Because I thought this was the beach. And everybody calls me crazy. You know, I mean, it was just...
You're hearing on the news things like he's gone crazy, which that didn't sound right, you know?
You know, maybe I know stuff people don't want me to talk about. So we're going to let other people believe. So they'll call me crazy. But it was a weird thing to get called crazy. At first it was scary. And then now I feel like it's liberating. Like I feel free, like I can just say what I want to do what I want. They already call me crazy. I can't hold myself accountable for these things. I'm crazy. I can't
it's not your fault.
I couldn't control myself.
Chappelle didn't just refuse a skit. He walked away from $50 million and vanished to Africa to escape the pressure. And how did society respond? They branded him unstable. The message couldn't have been clearer. Resist ritual humiliation, and you'll be painted as insane. Submit, and suddenly you're professional. The dress-wearing demand isn't about comedy at all. It's an industry-wide conditioning tool filtered to guarantee that only the compliant make it to the top. And if you want proof, look no further than Kevin Hart. His journey is the blueprint, from a boundary-setting resistor to a smiling participant. His evolution shows exactly how Hollywood grinds down defiance until resistance collapses.
Is there something that, you know, you wouldn't do, you know, for...
Definitely haven't ran into to put on the dress. I mean, you know, you have to have boundaries. You have to have limits that you refuse to cross. You know, for me, I know what they are. They've yet to be challenged, so you know, I don't have to speak on them. I was asked to dribble a basketball on the talk shows more. Like people said, no, that's not that was a dress, but I was like, no, I'm gonna look stupid. At the end of the day, you gotta know that you're a brand. I'm a brand. You need to protect your brand at all times. When things happen that can possibly affect your brand, your brand can be diminished, and you don't want that to happen. So, you know, protecting my brand is definitely a priority.
Hart's first stance was ironclad. He swore he'd never put on a dress, no matter how much money was on the table. To him, protecting his brand wasn't negotiable. It was survival. That wasn't a casual comment. It was a line carved in stone. But Hollywood doesn't respect lines. The machine keeps pushing, applying pressure from every angle until even the strongest...
You know what? I was actually one of those comedians that said, no, I wouldn't wear a dress. There's no way I would wear a dress. And then when proposed with the opportunity of what I felt was funny, I thought, oh, that's funny, I'm gonna do it. Oh, Kwanzaa is relevant. Yeah, that's funny. She's small. I can do the whole thing. It'll be funny. I think now, knowing about the opportunities that can be thrown at you, it's all about choice. You know, nobody makes you do anything. Nobody says this is what you got to do. This is the only way that you're going to do it. Nobody made Martin put on the dress in Big Mama's house. Nobody made Tyler Perry put on the dress as Medea. Nobody made Jamie Foxx put on the dress as Wanda. And nobody made Martin do it as Shanae. You know, it was a choice. And on Saturday Night Live, you know, it was a choice that I made. So I think it's all about your pick of what's funny to you and what you feel would be funny to others. And I will say that's the knowledge that I now have and understand. But from the outside looking in, you always go, oh, yeah, I can do it. Ain't no way. Why I gotta do it? I ain't gonna compromise myself. For what? I am who I am. But then you're in a movie, and then it calls for a funny scene. Hey, what if you went in this way? And if it's actually funny, it's funny. So at the end of the day, I think funny is funny. You can't put rules and regulations.
Listen to Hart's explanation after stepping into that dress on SNL. It was just comedy. Nobody forced me. But that isn't conviction. It's the psychology of submission. It's Stockholm Syndrome in real time. The journey is always the same. First defiance, then surrender, then defending the very system that broke you. And look at the results. The moment Hart complied, his career skyrocketed. That's the playbook. Humiliation brings reward. But resist, like Clifton Powell or Dave Chappelle, and your talent alone won't carry you past the invisible ceiling. This is Hollywood's unspoken contract. The dress isn't just fabric, it's a uniform of surrender. A silent oath that says you've traded identity for access. And yes, the rewards are real: money, fame, power. But the cost? Your soul. So the real question isn't who makes it big. The real question is, who really wins? The ones who bow down, or the ones who walk away with their dignity intact? If this hit you, smash that subscribe button so you never miss the truths Hollywood doesn't want you to hear. And until next time,